it's Jen Suzuki, and I'm in the industry. I meet some of the greatest leaders out there, dealer execs, dealers, GMs, and I'm bringing them in the studio to talk to me about what's making their business pop, what's accelerating their growth. I'm sharing my own personal strategies for your sales teams, so I'm ready to get after it. Are you? Hey, welcome back, listeners. I've got an awesome guest again today. We are going to talk about prospecting and all things that will help us consider 2024 vibes and our goals and our initiatives and help us with some strategies that we can target to improve our growth in our sales and our service department. Bottom line, that is what we came for. Let me introduce MC, Business Development Manager for Automotive Mastermind.
Hi, so great to be back with you, Jen.
Everyone was loving our first episode. And guys, if you didn't get a chance to hear it, it was published last month. Make sure you get a chance to listen to it. There was so many great strategies in here. I can't wait to 2.0 today.
I'm so excited.
Well, everybody keeps asking me, oh, what are your projections for this next year? And I was like, I should ask MC that because it's always, I love a new year. It's an opportunity to just really reevaluate where you were in the past year, target some strategies and areas that maybe you fell short on. And you're like, you know what? Everybody wants growth. Everybody wants like next level success. But then I always kind of go back to salespeople, managers, dealers, and I say to them, but what's the plan? What are you doing differently that you didn't do last year?
What I hear so often is I ask people about what are your goals? What are your priorities? Like, what do you want to see change? What do you want to see shift? And I think the thing that people need the most help with is they know where they want to go, but they don't know how to get there. And
yeah,
it's not, I wish it were as easy to say like, okay, we sell 500 cars now. I want to sell 900 cars this year.
Yes.
You can say that, but if we don't have a plan to support it, then it's just a wish.
That's what I'm saying. It's almost like you're lying to yourself because if there isn't a game plan, and I just recorded an episode on your planning your sales strategies for the year and very specific action plans to do that. But you're exactly right. It's like you can't just have hopes and dreams. You have to have action plans.
That's right. Like processes, right? And
yes,
I don't know about you, but like I'm sitting in front of me and I have a huge whiteboard. Like I put everything on a board, on a list, on a sheet. And I certainly was not always this way. Like if you talk to my mom when I was in high school about this, she's like, girl, I couldn't get you to like even write your name on your test. So here's to growth. Right.
Mm-hmm. Cheers.
So I think first and foremost, like know what your goals are.
Okay.
But like you said, be realistic with, okay, if we actually plan that out, what does that mean we need to do every month, every day in order to hit those goals? And then most importantly, what I find is that people do not have a scoreboard where
KPI.
they can actually see where they are compared to where they were, where they're going.
Measurement.
Yeah, measurement. Yeah. And I'm sure that you talked about this on what your plan is going to be to highlight everything in 2024 and how to get where we're going. Yes. But I think first and foremost, it would be have a scoreboard, know what your nice to haves are versus need to haves.
Okay.
So I think when we do a lot of planning and, okay, what do we want for 2024? I like to reference them as wildly important goals.
Okay.
My team has a weekly wildly important goal call where we say, okay, this is the most important thing that I'm going to do this week. And usually it has to do with, what your overall set of goals are. But what's very important is that you have an action and a time tied to it. So I can't just say, oh, Jen, okay,
we got to get this done.
Yeah, like I'm going to sell 10 cars this week. Like,
yeah.
Okay, that's we're saying it, and I hope we do it. But I need
What's the plan? What's the actions? When are you going to do it?
Who am I going to sell those cars to? Right? Where are they coming from? And I like to look at that from an overall perspective, right? Because sometimes our goals can seem really big. So,
yeah,
if I need to sell 500 cars this month, I like to break it down in small goals,
Ooh,
right?
like that. Yes.
How many are going to come from internet leads, right? What is my internet closing percentage at? How many of those are going to come from repeat customers? How many of those are going to be self leads that like I generate myself
Ooh,
as a
yes.
salesperson, a la mastermind, or digging out of the CRM if you don't have mastermind? Or how many of those are going to come from the store, right? Maybe an
Hmm.
internet lead, maybe the service department. So I like to break it down into like little departments. That way I know, okay, that 500 number doesn't seem so big if I know that I'm going to get, 50 from fleet because I have a big fleet deal coming in, or if I'm going
Yep.
to get, 50 from mastermind because that's how many I sell every month. So, just break it down into digestible goals in little departments.
I love this advice. It seems so much more realistic and so much more palatable when you break it down into segments like this. So, a lot of people will probably go into 2024. Well, like when people ask me, CBT News asked me the other day, I said, a lot of it, for me, it has to be about how you nurture your relationships. So, a lot of times people are prospecting. They're using your system to, go after very specific targeted groups, and if you're not seeing the conversion, maybe you looked at 2023 outcomes and you're like, okay, we made a lot of contacts. How do we not get the conversions? And then you're targeting that conversion as your KPI, your metric, and what have you. And you're like, you know what? That's a weakness. We need to go after that. One of the things I said that, recently is I said, a lot of times we've been doing transactional seller vibes. And it's just like I call people up, I'm on a cold call, and I'm like, hey, have you thought about trading your car in? No, they have not, you know, and I like just slow the freak down, read over the notes, find out about people, find a connection, see what city they live in, see
Be a
when the last time
human.
they were in your service department. Now come in swinging and then loop it into the conversation where it makes sense, where it's not some like, bam, are you in the market or not? Bye, next. I'm like, okay, calm down.
Yeah, being a human is so important. And I got this great advice, in my career, which is like it doesn't always need to be about the deal. So if you look in your CRM or you look in Mastermind, whatever, you go through your phone and you see the last time you texted this person was to ask them if they're in the market for a new car, and you're doing the exact same thing, then you're probably going to get the exact same result.
Yeah.
So be a human,
Change it up.
establish a little bit of rapport. I got to give
Yeah.
this guy a shout out. Hold on. Let me look in my phone and find out who he is.
Bring something
So,
to the table.
yeah. So, I don't know how this guy got my number, but
Okay.
he works at Audi
Okay.
Tampa.
Okay.
And this man sends me a text message. I got to find his face. Um, I don't know how he got my number because I did launch his store like many, 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 many moons ago. And he sends me a text message maybe every other month
Okay.
telling me like happy Thanksgiving or
Hmm.
whatever it is. And I don't know him, but I
He
want
stays
to
top
know
of
him
mind.
because
Hmm.
he's a real human. He's not talking to me about a deal. He's not talking to me about, you have equity in your
Lugs.
car. It's just, hi, happy holidays
Yeah.
from, like, I'm going to find his name by the end of this. I promise.
Okay.
But
I know it's always like you're looking for something and it can never be
never
there
find it.
right when you need it. Um,
Exactly.
But I like what you're saying here. You acknowledge a person who's trying to focus on more about you versus what can I get from you?
That's
And
right.
I always look at this strategy as taker versus giver mentality. And this is why I say, a lot of times you could check in on people and just say something nice. You don't have to say I'm checking in. Please don't say that. I just want to be clear. Please don't say that. But
And
if
let me
you
make the word just.
happy holidays. Hey, it's back to school. I remember you had kids. Okay. And then you intertwine it with a little value base. Did you find his name?
No, I gotta find
Okay.
it.
But if you think about injecting some things that are more value based, because a lot of times the manufacturers are now producing more incentives and loyalty, incentives and stuff like this. Not just that, but the product enhancements alone. You could be texting just little blips about, hey, they redesigned your car. I just wanted to let you know they added boom, boom, boom. These are the upgrades this year. Just wanted you to know and stay in the know. Boom, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Be a
So
human.
going back to your point with the goals, it's like if you're going to demand an improvement, breaking down into these categories of leads, sources, loves, all of that. At the same time, it could even be your sales process is like, hey, maybe we need to switch up our game. Yeah, because how are you can't be going doing the same old stuff and expecting bigger results without changing something.
Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned that because like one of the things that I've heard all year, and so this is, we had it a little easy from 2020, and then this year got a little bit tougher, and I've started to see some stores, get back to the basics on what they were
Yes.
doing. Maybe it's trade walks, maybe it's save a deals, maybe it's early management interventions, which like if you are doing those things, you are definitely doing the right things because not all stores are doing them. So
Mhm.
back to basics a little bit because that built a strong foundation. But 2024, I don't see it being any easier than
Me neither.
2023. I
No.
think it's going to get harder.
It's increasingly
Um,
gonna get more challenging. Yeah.
yeah, like we're starting to see incentives come back, which
Yep.
means ultimately we will start to see dealers discounting more. We will
Yes.
start to see more of a thrust to, you know, compensate for the affordability challenge.
Mhm.
But with that means, okay, I have to do something a little bit different. So, how can I get out in front of what I already know the challenges are to be? And maybe it's just informing that customer, like you mentioned. Maybe
Yeah.
that's part of the process that you go through when you get to that point where a customer visits your store as you let them know almost like an instructional close of number one, what should this look like?
Mhm.
Because for a store, if I were in a GM seat, the way that I run my store, I want it to feel special than any other store that they're going out so to see. So what does special look like? And then tell the
Mhm.
customer what that special is so that
Mhm.
they feel special.
Mhm.
Everybody wants to feel special.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a lot of times we forget that the consistency of messaging people and staying in front of people is actually special. Yeah, because here's the thing, I have a realtor. I mean, she's not gonna I'm not buying a house. She sold me this house 5 years ago, okay? She's the best salesperson I've come across in a long time, but she stays so consistent, and I'm sure she has some sort of a tool,
Of course.
but you gotta leverage a tool and technology with humans so that you can get the most, efficient and most awesome outcome. She reminds herself of something. Send Jen a postcard. Send Jen. She sends me spring flower seeds. Reminder of
That's
changing the
cute.
clock. It always stands out. The same stuff every year. She always writes me a personal note, and it's always about my kids. It's always she just she of course, I'm sure she has some sort of a database, man, where she's putting things in there, but she doesn't have anything new on me. Every once in a while, she calls me. Hey, we have a holiday party. If you're in town, please come, have a drink, have some appetizers. I never go, but I always think very favorably of her. So anytime that she calls me, I'm like, ooh. The other day she sent me a market research report. I never asked for it. And it was a big package, and it was a lot of printing. I was,
Oh,
but anyway, yeah, it was a lot of printing in there, but it was like a whole thing about my house, where it stands, what the market's been doing, just all this extra. And frankly, as I mentioned, anytime this chick calls me, I always take her call because I'm not thinking she's trying to take something from me. It's not always like, oh, can I sell you another house? Hey, it's none of that. It's hey, it feels like she wants to have a personal relationship.
yeah. You
Not
just
too
made me
crazy.
think of something, which is like, she's sending you that market research report because
Yeah.
you don't buy a house every day.
No.
But
Or
guess
every
what?
5 years.
She sells a house. I hope she sells a house every day. That would be amazing if she sold a house every day. But
She sells a lot
she
of
does it
houses.
a lot more frequently than you do it, right? Same thing
Yeah.
in the car business. Like
Yep.
these
Pipeline.
customers buy cars maybe like if we're lucky every 5 years, but right
Yeah.
now that's way up. Right now it's every 12 years. That's a long time. Think about it.
What?
Yes, every 12 years, like it's
A
an
new
entirely different
Wait,
decade.
are you saying that new car buyers are waiting 12
Yes,
years to buy? What?
yes, yes. The average age of a car now is up to like 12.3 years.
Okay. Yes.
So, with that, you're going to have, of course, if you look at certain markets of the country, right? Like lease buyers,
Yes.
they trade out, every 30 months, 36 months if they're waiting until
Right.
the full term of their lease. But, I live in the South. We don't have a ton of leasing in the South.
Yeah.
Same thing in
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
Midwest, not
Agree.
as much leasing is going on. So they're going to hold on to those cars a little bit more. But either way, even if they're doing it every 3 years, think about how much change happens in 3 years,
Oh, heck
right?
yeah.
So if your realtor is delivering you a market impact research report, and that might just be something that you find endearing, right? Not every customer is going to be like, "Oh my gosh, I love this data." But there are some people out there. The key is to try a few different things, see what that customer resonates with. Like maybe they do want to know, that equity is the highest it's ever been or that interest rates are starting to drop. Whatever it is, figure it out. There are some customers that want straight to the point. Okay, what's my car worth? What does it look like now? Or yes, you have this in stock, but it can't hurt to try.
I am so inspired by that, and I'm glad you're inspired by my talk with the realtor because that just got me thinking, it's like, the realtor story was exactly the same story as every salesperson that works in a dealership. You have to have a pipeline and you need to have tools that help you stay consistent and in front of your people. And it can't always be the same type of language that you're bringing every single contact. And why not like print out a market report? You know what we're trying to do every day? We're trying to pull people out of service and put them into a new car. And you know what we're doing with that? A market research report on that customer's car in essence, right? And I'm just saying that sometimes we can create our own destiny by being more proactive about staying connected with people and bringing something of value to the table. And if you see that you've got customers that, in fact, this could be a lead list you guys go after, is the people that have been in your service department declined work, for example. Oh
Mm.
God. Let's just say I pulled declined work list of people in the last week, 2 weeks. I mean, it depends on how busy your service department. This could keep you busy all day for the next week. um, and you just want to let them you just want to let them know what their car value is, and you want to show them a sample deal. A lot of these people bought from you, so you could go back into the original car deal, the car they're in right now, and see what interest rate, see what money they put down, see what the incentives are, see if there's a program car, something that's going to help them move into this, and maybe be more proactive at presenting something to people that could just be informative.
You just hit on so many things that I want to talk about. So,
Okay.
number one is proactive instead of reactive, right?
Love.
Like when you think about our industry, I use this analogy all the time. If you go get your hair cut, right? When you sit in that chair, the person who's doing your hair, they're already out money, right? Before you even get there, they got to pay the rent
Yeah.
to own that chair. A
Yeah.
dealership, a salesperson gets to have a desk, a computer, access to customers for free.
Yeah.
All of that the dealership is paying for on your behalf. And all they ask of you in return is that you be proactive and engage with consumers just the way that, we've been talking about. So that's the first thing is proactive instead of reactive. And that's Mastermind's whole philosophy is in a perfect world, you would never have to wait for a customer who's previously bought a car from you to
Love.
raise their hand and say, "Hey, Jen, I want to buy another car from you." You should be engaging them throughout that process, walking them through, "Hey, your car is actually worth more today than it was 2 months ago because,
Mhm.
you know, we haven't seen a lot of these trades come in." Whatever it is that,
Well, you're targeting that car so you could say that because not every car you can say that. So,
no,
that is the thing. So what's great about this tech and these tools is that you can actually target that.
that's right. So proactive versus reactive, I'm super passionate about. And then you mentioned another thing, which is pulling these customers out of service, and maybe they were recently here. So Mastermind just launched a new feature in our service portfolio. It's a completely new way to look at like the hub of the service drive. So any customer that's coming in, any customer who has an appointment, but most importantly, the customers who are recently here. And why I think
Okay.
that's so important is because there are a lot of dealerships who do a fantastic job of when the customer is there, giving them an
Mhm.
offer, being proactive, showing them what it would look like for them to move into a new car, giving them a trade offer. They do a really good job. But then what happens is they leave
Yeah.
and then nothing happens.
Yeah, they don't talk to anybody.
Yeah, there's no follow-up process. And
Yeah.
it's usually very hard to find those customers that were recently here. So in
Mhm.
Mastermind, now you're going to be able to see all of the customers who are recently here for service, all the good, juicy data as far as who was their service advisor, what was their RO, what did it look like, all of that good stuff that we need. But then, hey, I saw that we spoke to you. It looks like, maybe now isn't the right time, just so I can update my notes, so I can have an informed conversation next time I reach out to you. But if you were going to be looking for a new car, what are the things that you must have? Is there a reason why it didn't make sense for us right now? Get the
Yeah.
customer talking, right? And then
Mhm.
you can fill in those notes like your realtor, where she's going to invite you to the Christmas party and say we're
Yep.
having appetizers or send you the seeds, whatever it is. But just having some more information, and then you get that extra swing at bat, because they might have been crazy needing to pick up their kids from school when they picked up their car, and that's why they couldn't, engage in a conversation with you. But that doesn't mean it's a no. And
I
they were
agree.
just here.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and I think a lot of times that just you're on the 1-yard line, you know what I mean? Like, it's just if we go a little bit further, and so let's just pause for a second because you said something that I find is one of these things that we drop the ball on in dealerships all the time. I used to be a master at this. Now I am a master at putting notes in a system or at least asking questions to find out more about the customer. So look, be more observant of the customer's car. If you are seeing them in the service department and you see things that would indicate they like sports or they have a favorite team or that they have kids. I always target kids and dogs. You see dog hair. I don't know. I
Yep.
just write that
Yep.
down. 'Cause,
Totally.
hey, I meant to ask you, you were in such a rush last time you were here, because I saw the dog hair in your car. And I have had so many dogs in my life. I was just curious, what kind of dog do you have? It's easy to break the ice, but again, you have to sort of be asking the right questions and be thinking about what you just said. Hey, I'm going to circle back. I'm going to put them in the pipeline. I am going to tap that phone one more time and call them.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like when I remember when I first got into sales, like a no is not a no. The first no is not
Let's
a no.
just know that right now.
Well, when you walk around, Nordstrom and they're like, "Hey, can I help you today?" Most of the time people say no. I
I'm
don't,
just
because I
looking.
want to be efficient and move through, like, "Hey, I'm looking for this section," or whatever it is. But, you know, we got to make them say no a couple times before it's really a no.
Uh-huh. Take
It's
a swing
probably not
again.
right now.
Well, kind of going back to that, it's like if you approach people with the wrong sales process, you come in too hot, hey, what can I help you with today? They'd be like, oh, I'm just looking. I'm at Nordstrom's. My headphones are in and everything. No, 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 no. Yeah, but if you came back and said, "Hey, I see that you're looking at, you're looking at dresses. Is this like a work event? Is this a special event? Is just like to have in your closet? Like, is this an indoor, outdoor event?" I mean, gosh, you can move this sale along a lot faster by simply asking different questions.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Being engaged versus just waiting for the customer to tell you everything, because they're probably going to leave something out. And
yeah,
keep in mind too, again, going back to that customer, how often do they buy
yes,
a car versus how often do you sell a car? You're
hmm,
the professional. You know how to do this. You do this every day. They don't know what they need yet. You have
yeah.
to educate them on what they need or what they don't need. How many times, Jen, have you talked to somebody and they're like, "Well, like I need a 7-row vehicle." And you're like, "Oh, how many kids do you have?" And they're like, "1."
Okay, it's not
Okay, so why do
translating.
you need that 7-row vehicle?
Ask why. Yeah,
They're like,
why?
"Well, sometimes twice a year I go on a vacation and
Right,
I gotta have," and you're like, "Okay,
twice a year.
so it's only twice a year. It's not that you're utilizing this every day." They
Yeah.
probably don't need the 7
Yeah, let
row
me
the
show you
7.
all your options. That's
Exactly.
gonna yeah. Mhm.
All the time I hear that in stores.
So you've got you just mentioned some newer, or I think you said new, I'm not, but features to help with service acquisition. And I love this because I do think in 2024, a lot of people are going to step up their game and they're going to
Mhm.
become more focused on being able to source used cars this way and to be able to stay more connected with their customers. And for me, I believe it's nurturing loyalty. It's not even retention. When you're doing the things that MC and I just talked about. That's next level selling, and anybody could be like, hey, are you in the market? But poking and prodding and notes and circling back and all that, being proactive, that's like a whole nother game. When you have the tools that allow you to remember people, or you have the tools that will allow you to, hey, this is how many people we gave appraisals. These are the people that we haven't spoke to since we gave them the appraisal, right? That's then now I can leverage data with my time management for the day. And now I'm going to be able to target those initial goals that we talked about to actually meet the mark.
Yeah. And I think so often, like, to go back to the goal conversation, I talk to people and they're like, yeah, they just throw out the standards, right? Which is like, oh, we should be closing 2% of service customers and putting them into a new car. And you got to peel that onion, dig a little bit deeper. Well, 2% of what? If you're a Hyundai store, that's very different than a Toyota store, right? Because CP versus warranty, very different at those two stores.
Yeah.
And you're a lot more likely to close a customer who's a CP RO than a warranty RO. It can still be done, but Mastermind's going to be able to give you line of sight with our new service portfolio view that I was kind of teasing earlier.
Yep.
But I think the key is what I think a lot of stores will move to in 2024 is having that as a dedicated department.
Ooh, I do love that. And I have to agree with you. A lot of my clients have already started doing it. I mean, I have a call tomorrow with one of my biggest clients, and that's the whole thing right there. Dedicated staff for that particular role. Love it.
Yep. Pay plans,
Mhm.
what it's going to look like between synergy of service to
And
sales,
sales.
is the RO, like who gets the credit for it, who is paying for it, all of those details. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as flipping a switch on and saying, okay, we're going to do this. You have to work out all of those nuances. And
Yeah.
we've seen it a lot at our stores, and I know you have too, but
Yeah.
those are the conversations that we want to have now so that we can really hit the ground running in 2024 so that we can meet our goals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that you're saying 2024 vibes dedicated team. Okay, curious. Anything else that's on your projections?
I think other than it will be harder, right? And it will be
Yeah, I
harder
agree.
because it's almost like everybody's, what it's going to be like when you go to the gym in January. Like
Right,
everybody
yeah.
who hasn't been there is going to be there, and you're like, oh my God, it's so crowded. And you have atrophy, like, because you haven't ran in a while and you're running a 12-minute mile. I think dealerships are going to see a lot of that where they're like,
Mhm.
okay, let's buckle down. Let's get used to it. But like, I almost want to flash forward to like March,
Okay.
right? After all of those, like, oh, hope conversations, you know? So flash forward to March, what do you expect to see
Mm,
short term, right?
okay.
So we have goals for 2024, but what are our short-term goals? Because what I see happen a lot is we think like, oh my gosh, this isn't working because we're not getting there fast enough. Well, hold on a second. We got to give it a chance to work. We got to give it a chance to build our processes.
Mhm.
So being honest with ourselves to say, okay, these are our overall goals, right? Those wildly important goals I talked about,
Mhm.
but we all need some easy wins. So what are the
Mhm.
easy wins that we can look forward to when we're doing those reviews of,
Mhm.
okay, how was Q1? How was Q2? So that's what I want for dealers. Then what I think we'll see in the market is good news. We've heard that interest rates should fall next year, which should help with the affordability
Big time.
challenge. But with that, we've got to sharpen our skills and learn
Mhm.
how to still get around that because it's still going to be a challenge. So, what talk tracks can we use for that? Which customers can we isolate
Yeah.
to maybe the ones who aren't going to give us that as an objection? Just fish in the smaller pool that you want to fish in. And then I still think going to be a challenge of what I'm hearing a lot from dealers is service retention,
Yes.
and that the manufacturers are coming hard on them on,
Yes.
hey, you're responsible for these customers. You've got to get them back into your service department. So driving traffic in for service
Mhm.
and getting those customers who left us in
Mhm.
2020 to 2023, who maybe were loyal to my brand, getting
Maybe
them back
bought
to my
something
brand.
else, maybe bought a different brand. Yeah, getting them
Exactly.
back. Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So getting those nomad customers to stay inside the bucket.
Okay, these are really good targeted actions and initiatives to help all of our listeners as they start to plan for this new year. And I'm wondering if there are also, and I don't know if I interrupted you. I hope I didn't.
Oh, no, you're good.
um, but it just made it triggered this thought where I was like, you know, there's a lot of times where, you know, we project short-term goals, and there's things that change and market conditions change and initiatives change and personnel changes. But if you were to, and switch gears here, if you were to be thinking about changes, initiatives, you know, features in the tool, in Automotive Mastermind tool, 5 things that maybe people don't use that should maybe be part of the goal planning this next year. And they could be the smallest of littlest things, but maybe you have like you don't have to do all 5, but you know what if there anything that's more feature based that you would say can help them improve efficiency, engagement, sales conversions, what would they be?
Okay, so I'm going to do one thing, which is kind of like the big picture thing that we talked about, right? Like your realtor giving you that market
Yeah.
impact thing. So Mastermind has access to a lot of data. We have access to what we would consider like an unbiased view that's not coming from the manufacturer.
Mhm.
So if you would like your own market adjustment, market assessment view
Okay.
of things, we can absolutely provide that for you. One
Okay.
thing that all of our partners, and like a key performance metric that we look at is what is the dealer sales loyalty of a mastermind customer versus a
Mm.
non-mastermind partner. And it depends on the brand, it depends on the region, all of those things. But on average, for every 5% of dealer sales loyalty lift, that's equal to a 25% lift in profit. And that's according to a Bain consulting study that was done a long time ago. It's definitely considered like the standard. And that's not just in automotive, that's just
Mhm.
in the world, right? Like we all know it's a lot easier to retain a customer than it is to
Right.
buy a new one.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say first is
Okay.
if you do not have mastermind yet, we can absolutely go over those numbers with you and tell you what it would look like for the mastermind stores that are on with us and how they perform. Kind of
Mhm.
like comparison.
I love that.
So that's number one.
Get
Then
get a
number
report
two,
card.
yeah. Then number
Mhm.
two would be definitely the service portfolio that I mentioned. That is
Agree.
It is going to be a game changer. Been waiting a long time for this. So I want to see dealers implement like departments of this. I've talked to some of who I view as the smartest people in automotive and how they look at the business. And I remember talking with one of them many years ago, and she was like, "Oh yeah, they want me to sell out of the service drive. Okay, so I'm just going to do it my own way, and then I'm going to start spinning my paper, and then I'll just be the GM of this department." I was like, "Get it, girl." So service portfolio, that's
Yep.
coming.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so that's
Yep.
that's a whole aspect of your business, different profit center. Then what else would I say? Is another area where people could use mastermind and
Or
what they're
even
saying.
just features, just even features in the tool.
Features would be turn. So that's a new way to find customers for the right car,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes we have a car that's been sitting on our lot and we're like, "Oh gosh, it's getting a little long. I'm going to have to send that to auction." Very quickly in turn, you'll be able to see, okay, who are the customers that are most likely to say yes to this and how can I
Yeah.
get them in that car very quickly?
Love.
Then internally, we just launched a new feature, which it's a way to get consumers interactive within Mastermind, which normally that's never really been a thing. It's just always been for the salespeople or the managers.
Mhm.
So there's a new feature within Mastermind where a customer can click a link and it'll take them to the digital showroom. And in that digital showroom, it's almost where they can work their own deal. And if, let's say, Jen, you're driving a Chevy Tahoe and now you want to look at, okay, I'm not toting my kids around to school anymore, so I can downsize. I can move to a terrain. How much would that save me? And you can
Yeah.
play with your own deal and then tell us that you're interested in that. And then it'll start that lead flow process. But
Mhm.
the whole goal is that we are bringing you to the point where, hey, we know something's going on in your data. We want to recognize you and say, hey, this might be something you'd be interested in. And then you go in there and make it your own, maybe some things that we don't know, and tell us that you want, like, oh, I want to put this much money down, or, oh, I need
Yeah.
my payment to be this, all of that information, and push it to, it's going to be so great. I've already.
Well, it also helps with those service customers too, because it ignites the conversation, and you can actually see if they're interested by seeing what kind of information they input into the system.
Listen, the
Customer.
power of an iPad, right?
Yeah.
Like, you hand somebody an iPad and they click a link, and next thing you know, like, they're buying a car.
Yeah, you've given us a lot to think about, and it's about projecting next level success for 2024 and leveraging Automotive Mastermind into the sales process, regardless of whether you're using the tool or not. I always like to hear from subject matter experts like MC when it comes to stuff like this, because this is a passion for me, but also at the same time, I think there's a lot of money on the table. And I do think the margins are going to get squeezed this year. And I already can tell you this, it's a knife fight. I was just in a big Ford store last week in Southern California, and I can tell you, everybody wants a price, and so if you get tired of people, I want a price, go after your own people. Do you know what I mean? Get proactive about how you go after people. And when you have a tool like this, it's a lot easier to target people. It's very efficient to identify your opportunity, make a modification to your sales approach, build your pipeline, and look, there's a lot of great things that MC dropped in here, and they are going to have a lot of new product news and announcements coming up at NADA show. I'm going to be there, and
I'm going to be there.
Well, we were meeting for clinking glasses, okay? And guess where we're going to meet?
I know where we're going to meet.
Okay, I've been waiting and literally chomping at the bit for this thing for so long. Okay, so I found out that Automotive Mastermind is a sponsor at NADA. That's where I'm a guest instructor at the NADA Academy. And so I look forward to NADA shows, their opening kickoff party every year. It's at the Sphere in Vegas this year.
I know. It's been so cool. It's been all over. Like, Netflix did a thing on the Sphere.
My Instagram is full of pictures on the Sphere.
I feel like there's going to be bets about, like, what's going to be on the Sphere. I can't wait. We should throw up a poll or something on, like, a question box. What's going to be on the Sphere?
Could be Automotive Mastermind. Who knows? I guess you'll have to show up to find out.
We'll see.
But I just wanted to point that out, that, if you're thinking about, and this is a lot of my clients will ask me this, they say, Jen, who should we go and see? What should we look at? As MC mentioned, identify your shortcomings, identify what you want to change this next year. And when you see it could be some of the things that we mentioned, you should definitely look at Automotive Mastermind while you're at NADA show. I can tell you, I see this tool in nearly all of my clients' dealerships. I work with it in order for me to prospect, because, my end game is showed appointments, and how better to do it than to go after very targeted people. And I hope you'll at least take a look at it. It's definitely a recommended product from me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thanks for your time and your insights. If you like these episodes and my sales game techniques, you should snatch up our latest dealer education program I'm hosting. It's called Jen's Remote Classes, and it's a 1-hour, once-a-week class with me alongside other dealerships, all pursuing the same end game to achieve top 10% status in your dealership. For more info, hit me up. All my contact info's in the show notes. I want to hear from you. And follow Dealer Talk with Jen Suzuki right now to get notified when episodes like this one drop. This is Jen on the podcast Dealer Talk with Jen Suzuki. See ya!